meet for coffee, and I just don't say anything. When I go, I either have my iced tea or I sip something else. But that's interesting. But, there's a very interesting part of Yiftee I want to ask you about, and that I want you to talk to us about. And that's the business of securing funding, because I've always funded everything myself. And so for us to think about securing impressive funding the way you did for Yiftee, that's very different. So tell us some do's and don'ts. And now, of course, we have crowdfunding and things like that. What are some of the do's and don'ts that we need to be aware of when we come to seeking funding for a business?
So when we went out looking for funding, we had been, myself and the co-founders, 3 of the 4 co-founders had already been in business. So we had a little bit of an advantage of knowing a number of people by that time who already knew who we were. And that was very, very helpful, because our reputations, I think, were critical in helping us land the funding that we were able to land. We also were open to suggestions from other people as to where we might go get funding that we probably wouldn't have thought of on our own. And it was also important to us, as we were looking at these sources of funding, to think about kind of a long-term relationship. It's not just getting the funding, because the relationship really is only beginning at that point. It's also, these relationships are going to last a long time. And so you want to, if at all possible, select the people or partner with people or take money from people that you really are going to be able to work with for a long time.
Well, now you mentioned having partners. So that's one leap that people have to get through, finding the right partners. How did you do that?
Oh, that's a great story. So as I mentioned, there are 4 co-founders of Yiftee. 2 of us, my co-founder Donna Nowitzki, who is the CEO of Yiftee, and I have been. We started out about 20 years ago being what we call friendly competitors. She was working at one business, I was working at another, and we were competitors. We would see each other coming and going as we would pitch our potential customers. We were speaking and on panels at the same events, and we eventually ran into each other and decided to have lunch. We had a nice conversation. We decided we kind of liked each other, but we really didn't get close at that point in time. We lost touch with each other, and a few years later, we ran into each other. She had a little boy that was a month older than my little boy, and at that point, we decided that maybe we should spend more time together, and we ended up starting a play group, which was very fun. That turned into a book club, which, in fact, I was out last night, which was very fun. And so she's someone that I've known for a long time. John Kepix, who is also one of the co-founders, has also been in the business a long time. Turned out that Donna actually worked at the same company and knew him somewhat from a company that she had worked with even before she and I had met, and had lost touch and had been reconnected by a mutual acquaintance when we were thinking about putting this together. And the 4th co-founder, Aldo Briano, was actually a student at Stanford getting his graduate degree. And we ran into him through a project that we were doing with Stanford students there. Really, really liked him, thought he was a very talented guy, which he is, and invited him to join us. So, life takes you in different places.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people think that you have to really ignore your competition, that you have to, that it's cutthroat, almost like some of these political ads that we see on television all the time. And in reality, if you are running a great business and you're an ethical person, you want to be friends with your competitors. Because I always say, what is it to be better than the worst? I mean, the most important thing is to be better than the best. So you're a perfect walking, talking example of how to get along with people who were in the same or similar industries. Might have been competition, but you respected who they were. So that's an important point. And then I want to go back to this investment because some people get overrun by their investors. In other words, their investors want a big percentage of the company, or they want to be paid back in a certain amount of time, or they seem to get in the way sometimes of people who are running the company. So How does that work? Tell us a little bit about that for our people who really don't know much about getting investors for their companies.
I've heard of situations where that has happened. That I think part of it is by, bringing them in, and almost what you do with employees is trying to figure out where they can best help you and let them know how they can help you, and work with them on those kinds of things. Otherwise, sometimes my guess is that they're trying to be involved. They're trying to figure out how to be involved. They're trying to figure out how to add value. And if we don't tell them how they can add value, or kind of don't give them guidance in that direction, it might feel like you're being overrun by them. But most of my experience has been is if you help identify the help that they can give you, the help that you could use that they have through their contacts or their experience or whatever it might be, they're happy to provide that, and that's kind of how you then guide that whole relationship.
Well, that's very sage advice, and this is a very exciting organization that you've started here, Lori, and with your partners. What about any exciting company news that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I would love to. In fact, this morning we just did a press release on something that we did. I'd say a release that came out. It's with a partner called Fizzle. And we partnered to what we call enhance the fan experience at sporting events. So an example of that is something that we just did, or we're doing now, I should say, during the football season over at Stanford University. Fans are coming into the stadium, and before the kickoff for the first kickoff of the game, and at the half, an announcement comes on. There's a big thing that comes up on the big screen, and the fans are invited to participate in what they call the Pizza My Heart Kickoff Challenge. And at that point, fans are invited to vote or by texting whether they think the result of the kickoff will be a touchback, a touchdown, or at a particular yard line. And if they get it right, fans who vote either a particular yard line or touchdown will win a pizza. And fans who vote touchback, if that's what happens, they will get a slice. And this is supported by Pizza My Heart, which is a 24 chain local pizza place around here, which is very, very popular. And the fans really, really love it. So we've got, the sporting venue, which is Stanford football, which really likes it because it's engaging fans where they are. And it's also bringing in, Pizza My Heart is getting new folks to come into their venue. It's engaging fans. We call it engaging fans where they are, which is in the venue. So although they're in the stadium, they're watching the game, they still got their smartphones out. They're still doing replays and texting their friends and things like that. So that was just announced this morning.
Wow, that's terrific. Well, now, where can people find out about you and your group and your whole entity?
They can go to www.yiftee.com, which is YIFTEE.com. I encourage people to go there, shop around. It's easy to play with. You don't need to create an account until you're ready to check out. So you can go check out all the local things that we have, all the online things that we have. And I would also encourage merchants to go and look at it as well, because again, it's a great way for them to e-gift enable their businesses for the holidays. We also provide them a way for free also to e-gift enable their websites. So it's a great time.
Wow. So remember, folks, go to Yiftee, YIFTEE.com. You'll find out about the company, what they offer, what they can do. And some of you, if you have businesses, you might want to start doing business with Yiftee. I mean, it's a wonderful way to connect with consumers and to connect with people who might not have ever thought about you before. So I think that's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Lori, for being with us today. And I want to thank everybody for listening to Women in Business, the show that brings you women entrepreneurs and senior managers. I hope you enjoyed our show today, and you can connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. And be sure to download my ebook, Life Lessons from an SOB, on my website, spunkyoldbroad.com, where you can find information on my speeches, coaching, and resources. You can email me at Gayle, that's Gayle, Carson, 13@gmail.com. So hopefully you've enjoyed Lori and the show today. Go to Yiftee.com, find out about the services that she and the company have to offer. And thanks so much, Lori, for being with us today. I know that our listeners really learned a lot from you, and we'd love to hear about successful women in business.
Thank you for having me.